Alright, hello everybody and welcome to Path of Exile Blight. Now I know I did say I'm not gonna do any other video games on the channel, but I need this. This league is too good, I wanna talk about it. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Now, as you can see, the character I decided to start with, or rather play this league, because I don't think I'm gonna have time to play multiple characters for this one, is a Summoner Witch, which is exactly what I like to play. I love Summoners in ARPGs, and this is the League of Summoners, as well as Miners and Poison Assassins, I suppose. The Summoner playstyle just became so much better with this league, it's awesome, and that's not to say that it was bad before, but it was just somewhat limited. Yeah, you could do Spectres, but you would probably only go for Solar Guards and just beef them up. You could do some shenanigans with Raging Spirits, especially now that you can get like Fortify on staves to get them 7-linked. And you could also do some shenanigans with Montragos, Grasp Zombies, and you could do Skeletons or Skeleton Mages, or even do Golems as an Elementalist. But since I've been playing the game for many years, I already did all of those things, so I wanted to try something new. And this is exactly what I did. So what you're watching right now is just early leveling. It's towards the end of Act 2, and at this point I was already utilizing one of the new supports, which is Infernal Legion, which makes the minion take 40% of its maximum life as fire damage every second, but they also do a little bit of fire damage around them, so I linked it to SRS and turned them into SRF, Summon Righteous Fires, and that was pretty great. It carried me really hard through, well, the first few acts, actually. And at the same time, I was running a basic zombie setup for the single target, because zombies actually have good single target. It's making them do the damage that's the problem, because they're kind of dumb. However, since this is the Summoner League, we were actually given tools to make zombies do the damage we want them to do, whether it is via Feeding Frenzy, which makes them aggressive, or via Death Mark, which just straight up allows you to mark a target that they will attack. And this made leveling as well as most of the Blight encounters very easy, because my spirits would just fly around, burn all of the smaller dudes, and then if some bigger dudes were left standing, zombies would run in, slap it, and that was it. Things got even better about a third of the way through Act 3 when I finally got my first 4-link, so I slapped in a Raised Zombie with melee physical damage, minion damage, and Deathmark, which is the new support that allows you to Deathmark a target, and the minions that are supported by Deathmark will then try to attack it at any cost. So that took care of all my single target, and I was able to one-shot pretty much anything, including things like Piety. Then a lot of things actually happened towards the end of Act 3. So once I killed Gravicius, I was able to pick up Spectres, so I added those into the roster, and at first I was just running random Spectres, but once I got to the Lunaris Temple, I picked up 2 titty bitches there. Then the update for Path of Building came out, and this was a game changer, because that made me realize that even though it doesn't show in the tooltip, you can actually support Infernal Legion with a lot of stuff, because on the tooltip it just shows the base damage, it doesn't show the scaling from gems and the passive tree. So I got another 4-link, and I think it was a helmet for the Raging Spirits, and I went with Summon Raging Spirits, Infernal Legion, Minion Damage, and Element of Focus, which made the Infernal Legion sort of Righteous Fire effect do about 5 times as much damage. And this made me really happy, because at first I just thought this was something to trigger minion instability, because the damage it was showing on the tooltip wasn't very high. But no, you can actually support it, you can build around it, and that is very cool, I think. Then, once I finished the library quest, I was finally able to change the AI on my zombies, because this is where you can choose between multiple different supports, but the 2 important ones are Feeding Frenzy and Meat Shield. Feeding Frenzy makes your minions aggressive and also makes them give you a buff that then increases their damage, and Meat Shield makes them defensive, it makes them more durable, and it makes them stick close to you. So I took out Deathmark in my zombie setup and I replaced it with Feeding Frenzy, because I felt like, hey, my zombies are really aggressive now, they will not rest until everything in sight has been slapped to shit. So there is really no need for me to deathmark them around at the moment. And oh my god, actually seeing the zombies run around and do things on their own, oh, that's amazing. That's something that I wanted for like forever, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to at some point do a Montragos setup, because oh, I love zombies, they're great. And then, since I was already in the Imperial Gardens, I finished the lab trial and it was time to finally become a Necromancer. And there really isn't much to say about normal lab. It's normal lab, and normal lab is really easy. So Izaro got clapped by the zombies, burned by the Raging Spirits, and impaled by the titty bitches, which allowed me to finally ascend into the Necromancer. And the node I chose to start off with was probably the most obvious one, Mindless Aggression, which is just utterly ridiculous. It gives you minion movement speed, minion attack speed, minion damage, and minion cast speed. It is just ridiculous. And all that was left to do in Act 3 was to kill Dominus, and holy shit, poor guy. Look at it. That's phase 1 done. Yeah, that Mindless Aggression node is just stupid. And then we have to wait for phase 2. The RP actually took longer than the kill. Come on, Dominus, you can do it. We believe in you. There you are, big fella. And... fight. Yeah, that is probably the fastest Dominus I have ever done, outside of like super twinking my characters for leveling in standard. Next on the menu we have something very cool. I went into a Valside zone in the Blood Aqueduct and I got this shield, which is one of the new modifiers, +1 level to all fire gems. That is all fire gems you have equipped, not just the ones socketed in the shield. Now at first I was like, this is ridiculous, what kind of a modifier is this? But then I realized it's probably meant to balance one-handers and shields with two-handers, mainly staves and bows. Because previously, for example, you wanted to be an Elementalist Golemancer, you would go with the bow, because you were able to get +1 level of socketed gems and +2 levels of either cold or fire gems, depending on the type of golem you were running, resulting in a +3 golem bow. And if you then combine that with a level 21 corrupted gem and a level 4 empower, you would have level 28 golems in the bow. So at the end of the day, probably not as ridiculous as I had first thought. Now, a little bit later in Act 4, I was finally able to pick up the Carrion Golem, the new guy, the Bone Golem. And holy crap, these things are vicious! They have good damage with good AoE, they have good health, they buff other minions, they get buffed by other minions, and they are absolutely mental when you link them with Feeding Frenzy. These things are spicy. So once I got them, I was like, well, I guess I don't need aggressive zombies anymore. So I took out raised zombies and I linked them to Meat Shield for the defense, as well as minion damage for a little bit of damage because they still slap for a lot. And I simply put the Carrion Golem into the zombie setup, so we had Summon Carrion Golem, minion damage, Feeding Frenzy, and melee physical damage. And it was around this time when I had realized how idiotically powerful minion setups had become, because previously, whenever I made a summoner, it doesn't really matter what kind of summoner, I would go through Act 1, 2, and 3, no problem, but once I got to Act 4, more specifically Calm's Realm, the effectiveness of the setup would kind of dip until Act 5, where I was able to pick up Prayer Guards in the Cathedral. Not this time though, because the combination of Burning Righteous Spirits combined with Meat Shield Zombies and Feeding Frenzy Carrion Golems and 2 Titty Bitches supporting everyone from behind was just too strong, and I flew through the entirety of Act 4 no problem. I mean, just look at this comb kill. Look how stupid this comb kill is. He can't even do anything. He just leaps forward and then dies. The end. And then something very interesting happened. When I woke up, there was an update queued up on the launcher. And as I was reading through the notes, I saw this sneaky little line that said, Skitterbots can now be supported by Infernal Legion. Now, just in case you don't know, Skitterbots are a new type of minion designed for trappers and miners. They will kind of run around, one of them will shock enemies near him, the other one will kill enemies near him, and they will try to trigger your traps and mines. And they are invincible, they are untargetable, and they cannot take damage, which means that if you link them to Infernal Legion, they will not take the degen, but still do the damage around them. However, this does come at a pretty hefty cost, because they do reserve your mana. Quite a lot of it actually as well. But since I wasn't running any auras anyway, I just had clarity for the mana regen for the time being, I was able to fit them in, and they are perfect for the Infernal Legion, because they just run up to enemies and they're like, what are you gonna do? I'm a Skitterbot, you can't hit me. And they just stand next to them until they die from the degen. It's awesome! So I decided to keep them, at least for the time being, until I get to Act 6, at which point something magical might happen. I'm actually not sure yet. However, this also made the setup kind of boring because I had nothing to do. I would just desecrate, pop Flesh Offering, and then just run around because my minions were too good at killing everything, so I didn't have to do a damn thing. And while that might be amusing to some, I don't like it. I like the playstyle of Summon Raging Spirits, where you're stutter stepping all the time, you know? You move a little bit, then you summon spirits. Move, summon spirits, move, summon spirits, and you do that over and over and over again. It has this really nice rhythm, and I like it. So once I killed Doreso, as well as Malachi, who had died incredibly fast, probably just as fast as Dominus, I was determined to put my Raging Spirits back in. But then something awesome happened. I got 4 linked gloves in the Ascend with kind of the right colors. It was blue, 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 red, so I was able to put in Summon Raging Spirits with minion damage. Then I put in Unleash, because I already had the Infernal Legion on the Skitterbots, and melee physical damage. So in the end, as I got teleported to Oriath, I brought with myself 2 ranged specters that would batter everything at a distance, 2 skitterbots that would burn enemies with Infernal Legion, 2 carrion golems that were absolutely nuts with Feeding Frenzy, 7 mutual zombies that would slap everything that got close to me, and on top of all of that, I was also unleashing 4 raging spirits at a time. And I was in heaven, because this is exactly the kind of playstyle I like. An army of death rolling across the land, killing everything in its way. And I only hope I'll be able to scale this into endgame, because this is exactly the kind of playstyle I love. And with that, we end the first episode of my Path of Exile Blight talkthrough. Now, I usually put the build at the end of these videos, but I'm not gonna do that this time around, because I'm building for something that I don't know if it's actually gonna work, and I'm only going to find out once I make it to Act 6, okay? In retrospect, I probably should have tested it in standard before I decided on actually doing the build here, but what's the fun in that? And even then, this build still works even without the thing we're gonna get in Act 6, so even if it doesn't work, I can just respec a couple of points and it should be fine. So as always, I thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. These will probably come out once a week. They might come out more often in the beginning, but the progress will slow down once I get to maps, and I will see you some other time. Bye bye.